Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randirhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast. Yeah. I can't sing. I can't. It's not a joyful day. No, because of this.
I ordered a targeted military strike.
The toughest direct U.S. action yet in Syria's 6-year-old civil war. America unleashing military strikes on a Syrian airbase late Thursday. Officials saying warships fired around 50 Tomahawk cruise missiles from the Mediterranean Sea, targeting Syrian aircraft, an airstrip, and fuel stations near homes. A response to this week's deadly chemical weapons attack that killed more than 70 people.
There can be no dispute that Syria used banned chemical weapons, violated its obligations under the Chemical Weapons Convention, and ignored the urging of the UN Security Council.
The U.S. strike comes one day after Trump pointed the finger at Syrian President Bashar al-Assad for the chemical attack, which the Syrian government denies launching. U.S. military action sets Donald Trump at odds with Russia. Moscow has air and ground forces deployed in Syria after intervening on behalf of Assad 2 years ago to push back Sunni Muslim rebels. Until now, Trump's almost exclusively focused his Syria policy on beating Islamic State militants in the country's north, where American special forces have supported Arab and Kurdish armed groups. It also marks a step President Barack Obama never took. In 2013, he considered, then rejected, a cruise missile strike also in response to use of chemical weapons by Assad loyalists.
Yeah, it's
well, Christine and Maurice, the Trump administration.
It's okay. I got it. It's unbelievable. And he never went to Congress. He didn't go to Congress. Why didn't he go to Congress? I'll tell you why he didn't go to Congress. He didn't go to Congress not because they wouldn't have voted with him. They likely would have voted with him. He didn't go to Congress because he didn't know what he was doing until he did it. We have an impulse president. We have the guy that stands on the supermarket checkout line and decides, that he needs 18 packs of Orbit chewing gum because it's right there. Or he buys 1,400, Bic lighters because it's there. Or suddenly remembers he needs AA batteries because it's there. I mean, everybody was talking about the nuclear option this week when suddenly you get reminded what the real nuclear option is and who wields it. I just and this bad audio last night. This was supposed to be his moment. Somebody got fired because he's sitting at Mar-a-Lago. He's not in a situation room. He's at his own freaking house in West Palm Beach on vacation with the president from China trying to look cool. Hey, watch this. He called it in right before they sat down for dinner and then announced it right after dinner. It's like the most amazing thing. And what is his plan going forward? He'll probably make an announcement along the lines of, nobody knew that international relations could be so complicated. I didn't know it could be so complicated. He had no consultation with other countries, no authorization from Congress. And for his big decisions, he sits down to dinner with a racist blogger named Steve Bannon, his creepy son-in-law, and who hate each other's guts. And then, he picks up a phone and he calls it an airstrike. This is sick. This is crazy. This is unbelievable. And of course, this reeks to me of a total and complete setup. Remember, in 2013, when Obama went to Congress and asked Congress for a authorization to use military force in Syria, Congress got on the record and said, there just wasn't enough support for it. There just weren't enough votes. Just not enough votes. And so Obama pulled the bill because Congress said no, absolutely no. Except for McCain and, his boyfriend Lindsey, who are always up for a war. It's very exciting to them. They're drama queens, I guess. So everybody said no. He didn't have the support. He didn't have the vote. And he didn't force everybody to take the vote. And instead, Obama went and did diplomacy with Vladimir Putin and said to Vladimir, look, get rid of all these chemical weapons or the United States will just take action on its own. And, it's just a bad thing and it's not good for you. It's not good for us. Just do it. And Russia seemed to have agreed and said that they would clean up this mess in Syria. OK, But in 2013, when Obama was going to Congress and asked Congress for authorization and Congress was saying no, Trump was also sitting in his underwears at 4 o'clock in the morning, at 3 o'clock in the morning. He didn't have Meryl Streep to fight with. Back in those days, he was fighting with Rosie O'Donnell and President Obama, who he insisted was a secret Muslim. But Obama was trying to bomb Syria, and Trump's tweeting, don't do it, don't do it. Why? Because the Russians didn't want it done. That's why. And Trump was like, don't waste your powder. This will cause, major crap in the world. And you don't know what's going to happen. And this is really bad, really bad. Nothing in it for the United States. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Right. Don't attack Syria. Don't attack. And then when he started running for president, what was Trump's attitude toward these poor little beautiful babies who got the life choked out of them? What was his attitude toward the refugees, the Syrian women and children that we wanted to bring into this country? What was it? What did he say? Donald J. Trump is calling for a complete and total shutdown on Muslim refugees, Muslim, immigration until we find out what the hell is going on. It was all directed at the Syrian refugees. He kept saying how Angela Merkel was an idiot for allowing all these people in. Meanwhile, the United States has a vetting process in place for these refugees. We've taken the least amount. Jordan has taken a ton. Germany has taken a ton. Turkey has taken a ton because they're on the Syrian border. And Trump is very busy saying, no, we won't take them. And this is apparently why his racist followers voted for him. They loved that he was saying no to the babies. And Hillary Clinton in every debate kept saying it's women and children, and we have a very strict vetting process. They go to these refugee camps, these people fleeing these towns, and in the refugee camp, the UN humanitarian workers go, and that is where they are biometric. Their irises are scanned, and biometrics are taken, and their stories are checked out. And we go to see where they came from, and we go to see whether or not their towns are under assault, and we go to see whether or not they were fleeing. And then they move through the 10-step process that takes about 2 years for them to get through before they're ever given a visa to come to the United States. Well, Trump pretends, he feigns ignorance and says, that we don't know what the hell is going on. And Germany, is the same as us. No, Europe did not have the kind of vetting process in place that we did, and they took them anyway. That said, so he's against intervention in Syria. He's against taking the refugees the whole time he's running for president. Then he becomes president, and he actually signs a Muslim ban against these refugees. Won't let them come, doesn't have any sympathy, no empathy, no understanding of their plight, right? Plus, back in 2013, there were photos that he saw. He saw because I saw him, and Obama saw him, everybody saw him, of thousands of bodies, it was 1,000, plus bodies laying in the streets of a suburb of Damascus, big city, where Assad had gassed his own people. 1,000 dead people. That's why Obama was asking for permission to take action and to at least try and take down their aircraft, try and, hit their air bases, et cetera, right? Trump said no, he's not for that. Trump said no to the refugees. He's not for that. Trump said no, and then remember, just 72 hours before this gassing, Rex Tillerson is on the TV in Turkey saying there's no space between us and the Turks, and we will do what the Turks want us to do, and blah, blah, blah. And so that means that the future of the Syrian people are in the hands of the Syrian people. America is not going to ask for Assad to leave. We're just not going to do it. And then Nikki Haley is at the United Nations also saying the same damn thing. It's not our first priority to do regime change. It's not our first priority to take out Assad. So everybody gives the green light to Syria, to Assad, to the regime, to do whatever they want. I think the Russians were like super, super tired of waiting for the United States to attack Syria. And now we're investigating whether or not the Russians did a second bombing. First, there was the gas attack. And that was done by Russian aircraft piloted by Syrian pilots, trained by Assad. And then subsequent to the gassing, there was a bombing at the hospital where these victims were taken. And the reason for the bombing at the hospital was so that we couldn't do forensics and find out what type of gas was used. They figured if they obliterated the hospital, then we wouldn't be able to have the bodies, and no bodies, no autopsies, no toxicology reports. So now we're investigating whether or not the Russians actually bombed the hospital post Syrian gassing. Now, The Russians baited Trump. They tried everything that they could to get America to do something in Syria. I mean, they're allied with Syria. Syria is a client state. But, the last time Russia got involved in an Arab conflict or in an Islamic state, the last time they did it was Afghanistan. That did not turn out very well for them. Well, I shouldn't say the last time. This is the first time. They stayed in Afghanistan for 9 years. They went broke doing it. Doing it in Afghanistan. They failed so miserably that, Russia almost crumbled. And then, of course, Russia gets involved in Chechnya. That did not work out well for them either because we helped the Chechens. And so now they're all involved in Syria. I think they're tired of it. I think they really are looking for a way out, but they want something for getting so involved. And I think what they did was they baited us. And they said, gas is going to, the last time we did gas, at least the American president wanted to do something. He wanted to bomb. Came to us, we negotiated something, but now we're really in. We decided after that, when we knew that the United States wouldn't bomb, we got really involved in Syria, really, really involved. And you know what? We don't really care about Syria. We care about Crimea. That's our port. That's what we want. Sevastopol. That's our place. That's what's important to us. And these damn sanctions on the United States that were placed upon us because we invaded Crimea have got to go. And the additional sanctions, where they kicked out our spies, well, that's got to go too. But really, it's the big money sanctions we got to get out. We got oil deals to make. Our economy is crumbling. We can't afford to stay in Syria anymore. Oh, let's just bait Trump. He's an idiot. We know that because he's our guy. So I got a funny feeling that the Russians baited Trump. We did pre-warn the Russians. We did pre-warn them last night, although Tillerson lied and said we didn't. He said, no, we had no conversations with the Russians ahead of this attack. But McMaster said, of course we did. We have a de-conflict line, and we were on that line, and we told them to clear out. We didn't want to hurt any Russians, which is sick. And then that freed up Donald Trump to look strong. And, of course, the Russians came out today outraged against, this attack, right? And now they're going to go and negotiate. Now, here's what you're looking for. If we take the sanctions off Russia, or if we give them, some sort of green light to stay in Ukraine, in exchange for them abandoning Assad, then I'm right.
To speak to Randi, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
Randi Rhodes. Air Force.
Well, it's clear that something's very, very wrong with the nation's economy. It's experiencing anemic growth. Our middle class is shrinking. Retirees are facing nationwide pension crises, with many pensions being underfunded and headed toward insolvency. The stock market's super volatile, and many experts say it's way overpriced. The Trump administration is MIA with their amazing economic plan for America. So how are you feeling about your economic security? Call my friends at ITM Trading. Just speak with one of their precious metals experts about gold and find out why now is the perfect time for gold. Learn why gold survives every government, every currency, every economic crisis. Call ITM Trading today at 1-888-OWN-GOLD, and they'll send you a free gold buyer's guide. They've helped tens of thousands of people acquire physical gold and silver, and they can help you too. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD, 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 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1803. That was the day utopian socialist and women's rights activist Flora Tristan was born. She's also remembered as the grandmother of painter Paul Gauguin. Mario Vargas Llosa most recently popularized her life in the 2003 novel The Way to Paradise. Her family was aristocratic, but she grew up in poverty outside of Paris. The young Flora found work in an engraving shop and married the shop artisan, André Chazelle. Together they had 3 children. When the marriage became violent, she left him, though divorce was impossible. By some accounts, she became a maid for the wealthy and traveled Europe. It was through her travels that she became a socialist. She witnessed abject poverty and inequality in too many countries and was drawn to the work of the utopian socialists. Tristan campaigned for the right of divorce and wrote at length of worker struggles on the cusp of industrialization. Her novels, which confronted women's inequality and workers' rights, appeared in the late 1830s. She regularly visited feminist and socialist salons in Paris where ideas linking social transformation and women's rights were popular. Her most well-known work of nonfiction is The Workers' Union, which appeared in 1843. In it, Tristan argues that craft guilds could no longer adequately represent workers in an era of industrialization. She envisioned an international union of workers that organized regardless of skill level, a union that took on broader issues of social justice. Tristan also tied the advancement of women to the advancement of workers. She believed that discrimination against women only strengthened anti-worker forces. Workers and women had to take up each other's causes in order to win true justice. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
It's not just me that thinks he should go to Congress. Senator Mike Lee agrees he should have gone to Congress. House member Adam Schiff agrees he should have gone to Congress. I mean, everybody's like, this man is flying by the seat of his pants. He has no coherent strategy before the bombing. He has no plans for after the bombing. The bombs themselves and the Russians are the only thing in this whole scenario that had any degree of precision attached to it. Even his advisors disagreed last night.
And in New York, NBC News special correspondent Tom Brokaw joins us as well. Very good to have you,
Senator Lee, let's start with you. You've had some concerns about the Trump administration launching any attacks without coming to Congress first. What should be done now?
Anytime we send our young men and women into harm's way, I think the president owes it to the American people to come to Congress and present a plan. The Constitution, with good reason, says that in order to declare war, you have to go to Congress.
That's Senator Mike Lee from Utah. You can't get more Republican than Senator Mike Lee from Utah. Adam Schiff said the same damn thing. He said this is just everything that we're doing. And Schiff is very fair. Schiff said that even what Obama was doing, what Obama has done. We have 900 troops in northern Syria, near Raqqa, because Obama decided that since Congress would not allow him to do anything, and he wanted to, at least fight ISIS. So Raqqa was the home port of ISIS in Syria, just like Mosul is in Iraq for ISIS. So Obama said, well, the 2001, we're still riding that military authorization to use force in Iraq. In 2001, when we got the authorization for George W., that it covered the war on terror. And so that included ISIS. And so Obama put 900 troops in Syria. He put them in Raqqa. They're there right now. The Russians didn't care because, the Russians like, hey, if America wants to fight ISIS, we hate them too. Let them fight. What we're doing is backing the Assad regime because we have a port in southern Syria that we need. Geographically, we need a port in the Middle East. It's the only place we get a foothold in the Middle East, the only place we can listen in. It's the only place we can run ships. It's the only place that we can, and we can sell them lots and lots of bombs, lots of aircraft, lots of stuff. So they're a client of ours. We don't give a damn about Raqqa. Let the United States risk their lives. Let them get killed. So Russia never interfered with our fight in Raqqa. And we're in Raqqa under the 2001 authorization. Schiff says that authorization in 2001 shouldn't really cover Raqqa, and he's introducing another piece. He said he had introduced an authorization for Obama to use military force in Raqqa against ISIS. Congress wouldn't vote because they were obstructionists. Anything Obama wanted to do was bad, sad, wrong, no. And Trump would tweet out, an agreement. But when it comes to the regime, when it comes to the government of Syria, that is a legally elected government. He is a dictator. There's no question about it. He's a hideous, hideous human being with a dark black soul who is willing to kill, just like Putin. They're thugs, they're killers, in order to retain power. Okay? But we don't have an authorization to use military force against a sovereign nation called Syria. We don't. And Schiff tried to introduce something to give Obama, a real cover to fight ISIS, but they couldn't get it out of Congress. So, Obama took it into his own and said, yeah, well, this is terrorism. This is the fight against terrorism. It's covered under the 2001. Now, that's debatable. It's absolutely debatable. I think I would fall on the side of, yes, we fight terrorism under the 2001 authorization, and that Raqqa is a stronghold of ISIS, as is Mosul. But it doesn't include the government of Syria. He's a dictator who's a client of Russia. You attack that regime, you are attacking Russia, and you're attacking Iran, who's also part of this axis of evil. Now, I really feel like this is Russia's foreign policy. Russia wants to get out of Syria. They're going broke. And Assad, they don't give a damn. And you know what? I didn't just make this up. I read a lot of things. But one of the things you should read every day is the Washington Post. And in the Washington Post, on the day that King Abdullah from Jordan was in the Rose Garden, when Trump had his epiphany about the little babies that he won't let come into this country to get out from under the bombings in Aleppo, the bombings in all of Syria now, in Idlib. Yeah, no, he's not for that. But there was this really interesting interview that the Washington Post had with King Abdullah of Jordan after the Rose Garden appearance. And it's kind of like, 5 pages or something like that. And just to save you some time for those of you who don't read, and I know you don't read because you can't write. Stay off my social media, you freaks. Just listen and learn. They asked King Abdullah, what about President Assad? How do we get rid of him? Now, this is what King Abdullah of Jordan has said. He said getting rid of Assad is a discussion for the Geneva talks, which are upcoming. He said the Astana talks that are backed by Russia, Iran, and Turkey that we're involved in are purely related to getting a military ceasefire. We all know that the Russians don't want Assad there any longer than the rest of us do. I don't think the Russians are wed to Assad. Common sense dictates that somebody who is a figurehead of such bloodshed toward his people probably will move on. The question then was, so you think that at the forthcoming Geneva talks, the Russians will get rid of Assad? He said, I think they will barter about Assad's exit. At the end of the day, we need a regime that is accepted by all Syrian people. He said, I'll tell you what works. This is King Abdullah of Jordan. Here's what works, he said. From the Russian point of view, they play what I describe as a 3-dimensional chess game. To them, Crimea is important. Syria is important. Ukraine. And we see them in Libya. The Americans and the Europeans must deal with the Russians on all these issues at the same time. So the questioner says, well, once you understand all these issues together, what do you do? And King Abdullah said, now listen to me, then you horse trade. For the Russians, I think the most important thing is Crimea. If you come to an understanding on Crimea, I think you'll see much more flexibility on Syria. And then I think it becomes the least problematic thing. He said, from Putin's point of view, he has a major challenge with terrorism. ISIS International is headed towards Moscow. I think the subway attack in St. Petersburg is the start of foreign fighters moving into another battleground. Putin has to find a political solution sooner rather than later in Syria. Putin, I swear, so this is what he says. Horse trading is about to happen. And I have been telling you this since the beginning. Since the beginning of the 16 intelligence agencies telling us that our president is a wholly owned subsidiary of Vladimir Putin. And honest to God, I got to tell you, Putin goaded or Trump or gave him cover, I don't know which it was, for us to actually strike at the regime, at Assad's airbase. A little tiny airbase is what we hit last night. And That let Trump look strong. Of course, Russia protests. Oh, this is horrible. This gives Trump the space he needs between Russia and himself, right? Because everybody's looking, everybody knows Trump is Russia, Trump is Russia, Russia is Trump, and they are inseparable when it comes to what they want. They are inseparable. So you look and you say, oh my God, if we show pictures of dead babies, that will give Trump cover. He can feign all this outrage, even though it never bothered him before. But now he can feign all this outrage. You attack a little airbase, and then we'll feign outrage, and then we'll have to go to the table, and we'll look like we're leading the world in peace talks and blah, blah, blah. But remember this, you fool. We want these sanctions off. We need to get out of Syria anyway. We'll get out of Syria. We'll let Assad fall on his own. We'll let the people take Assad out, and we'll stop supporting him. But you better take the sanctions off, and you better let us keep Crimea. And that's why Trump on the campaign trail is going, well, you know, if you ask me, the people in Crimea wanted to be part of Russia anyway. This is a setup. And people died last night. There were casualties last night. Four little babies, 4 children died last night, nine civilians. But, you know, this is why he doesn't go to Congress. Congress would demand a long-term plan. Congress, in order to sign off on a war plan against Syria, the regime itself, the government of Syria itself, they would want to know, what's your next move? What happens if those 900 troops that we have in Raqqa fighting ISIS, what happens if they're attacked? What happens if Hezbollah releases the flying monkeys? What happens? I mean, what is your plan? How do you do this? He doesn't have a plan. Russia is telling him what to do, and he's doing it. Tillerson, that's why Tillerson lied. Tillerson said that he never spoke to Russia. He said, that we didn't notify Moscow. But General H.R. McMaster told reporters that we did. He said we used the de-conflict line, and we told Russia, we gave him a heads up, and we told him, get out of the way, we're doing this. And we don't want to take out any Russians. So just get out of the way. So why is he lying? This is unbelievable. This is unreal what's going on here. This is not our foreign policy. Not ours. Not ours. All right, Judy in Seattle.
Hi there, Randy.
Hi.
Long time no hear.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. My husband decided after his back surgery in October that the end of last month he decided to fall and break his hip. So we're struggling along.
Oh my God.
But anyway, the reason I have 2 things, and one of them is not on this topic. But when you started talking this morning, you know, I was sitting here last night when I heard the news about the fact that we were bombing.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought of is that this has got to be a setup. This has got to be a setup.
It reeks.
It reeks of setup. And you know, and then I thought, God, am I sounding like a conspiracy theory person?
No, you're sounding like King Abdullah of Jordan is what you're sounding like. You're going, you know what? They're looking for a way to get Trump and Putin together, and they can't do it right now because of all these investigations.
Exactly, because this little air base that they bombed meant nothing to the Russians.
Right.
It meant nothing to the Russians. It didn't bomb anything else. It didn't prove anything. And why is it, I'm sorry, this sounds probably gross, but it's still, why is gassing people to death different than bombing their heads off? I don't understand.
I don't either. And a lot of people in this audience don't get it either. When we talk about things like cluster bombs, or we talk about, you know, a depleted uranium, the gift that keeps on giving way after the conflict ends. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, but there is sensitivity around it.
I sat there and I looked at this and I thought, this is perfect for the Russians, because now they can sit there and they can scream, you know, oh my God, how horrible that you guys did this, and you know, we need to do something. And it's like,
yeah, now they
don't give a crap.
Right. And
they don't give a crap about
But the point
Syria.
is, in very simple language, the point was to make Russia and Trump seem like they don't get along.
But and that's
they
exactly
do.
Yeah, and it's like I said, they don't give a crap about Syria. What they really want are those sanctions lifted. What they really want is Crimea.
Yes.
And this is a way that they can negotiate, quote unquote, with Trump in order to look good. And it just, to me, it just looked like a big setup. And because it accomplished nothing.
That's right.
It accomplished nothing except for what Putin wanted.
I agree. And that's why Tillerson lied. I mean, he just flat out lied and said, "Oh no, we didn't tell that you know." And then H.R. McMaster comes out and said, "Yes, we did. We called the Russians on the deconflict line, and so now Russia says they're going to close down the deconflict line so that we won't." That was that's some response. Wow,
because we don't have any other form of communication with them.
Yeah, like Twitter. Yeah, I know. It reeks. It reeks.
The other thing that I wanted, like I said, is totally off the topic. But a while back you were talking about, and I knew about the fact that they were, had written in the rules about the fact that now Comcast and other people can sell the information, your user information.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, does this include things like banking information? Because I do my banking online. And I mean, it's like, are they going to know what bank I'm in? Are they going to be able to get that deep into there?
They'll know that you went to Bank X. They'll know that you searched it, that you went there. But they won't know what your account information is. But yeah, they'll know where you go. They'll know everything about you. And we're in this no man's land. It's like the FTC said that they were going to regulate, and then the FCC said, no, let us regulate. And then he signs this thing that puts us in this nether region where no one regulates. And until somebody decides who regulates edge providers like Google versus, who regulates, the telecommunications industry, then we're in this no man's land. And sure, right now they can have all your browsing history.
Well, and I'm wondering how far they're going to take this before somebody clamps down. It's like browser history, and then, if we know where they're going to bank, what are they doing on their bank? How much money do they have?
That's a whole different thing. That's bank security, and I don't think the banks would compromise their clients, for the sake of spying on them. I just don't see that happening.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
At least for the sake of argument, I want you to know I will.
But check this out, okay? Let's say you got, two parents, two little kids. They're getting divorced. Let's say the missus has this, dirty little porn habit, and they're trying to fighting over child custody. So now all of a sudden the lawyer for the husband can actually get her browsing history. He can buy it. And he can get her browsing history, introduce it in court, and say that she's an unfit mother. She searches porn.
Wow.
That can happen.
I guess I'm going to have to close up my porn account.
I know, and I'm not doing it. I mean, no. Thank God my kids are grown. Thank God they're all grown. I don't have to worry about custody. See, that's the kind of crap that should send, the fear into you.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a diversified media enterprises production. I'm Doug Cunningham. 5 minutes. That's all it would take Congress to keep a health care and pensions promise to retired coal miners. But if Congress doesn't act by April 30th, tens of thousands of retired miners will lose health care and pension benefits that they were promised for life. United Mine Workers of America President Cecil Roberts.
On April the 30th, 22,600 retired coal miners and or their dependents will lose their health care they've earned by virtue of the miners working 20 years or more in the coal mines. And then we have approximately 90,000 pensioners who are subject to lose or have their pensions reduced dramatically in the next 4 or 5 years if Congress fails to act.
Roberts says coal miners earned these benefits, and the government promised they would have them for life.
This is not a gift. This is not a handout. This is not welfare. This is keeping a promise.
AFA-CWA President Sarah Nelson says America owes it to these miners to keep this promise.
Join us in calling on the leadership of the House and Senate to stop obstructing a vote to keep America's promise to our mine workers. They have given blood, sweat, tears, their lives, families, communities to power America, protect our country, and build our American labor movement to provide opportunity, respect, and good jobs for all Americans. Some issues are complicated. This one is not. In as little as 5 minutes of time, Congress can vote to keep its promise. 5 minutes. That's all that's needed to repay the debt we owe to the mine workers and their families.
Global Trade Watch's Melinda St. Louis says Trump isn't keeping his promises to protect workers when it comes to trade with China. One reason is that Trump's Goldman Sachs cabinet members support the China trade status quo. St. Louis says it allows corporate domination in China trade that hurts workers and the environment.
Our critique of trade policy is not an us versus them, America versus China. It's about how does trade policy benefit workers and benefit the environment, as opposed to what we've seen in trade policy in the past, where it's rules that have been written by and for large corporations at the expense of the rest of us.
St. Louis says Goldman Sachs supports the U.S.-China bilateral investment treaty. It would let China overturn our laws in a private tribunal.
To be able to sue outside of our courts in private tribunals of 3 corporate lawyers against any law, environmental law, public health and safety law, that could undermine their profit making.
WIN is made possible in part by the OPEIU, the Office of Professional Employees International Union. You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
Hi, we're back, and everything is possible again. Isn't it beautiful? Well, if you want to keep it this way, buy a stinking podcast. Oh yes, you have to buy a stinking podcast. And you get that at RandiRhodes.com, where we're open all day, all night long. RandiRhodes.com. Get your stinking podcast.
Welcome back to The Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
The Randi Rhodes Show is brought to you by our partners at ITM Trading. Call them at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and ask for a free gold kit. 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
I would certainly strongly caution the administration not to make this a military effort to change the regime. Now, I fully concur that regime has to go because as long as Assad is there, that fighting is going to go on, that terrible war is going to go on. But this is not something that can be accomplished via the air at a standoff location. At most, we can hope that this will deter the regime from using chemical weapons again. That is probably the most significant thing you could hope for, as well as a deterrent to other regimes in the future about using chemical weapons. But there are still a lot of issues to be resolved, and one of them for the Congress is all of this is being done, not just the attack today, but the presence of our troops there. All of this is being done without any congressional vote, any congressional authorization, and Congress really needs to deal with this.
Was this strike legal?
I did ask the director that question. What's the legal basis for this? What's the U.S. legal basis and what's the international legal basis? That was out of his lane, as I thought it might be. That's really not directly the responsibility of the DNI, but that's a question Congress needs to ask. But I think we already know the answer to the question in terms of U.S. law. And that is none of what we're doing in Syria is authorized. And this is an issue I took with the Obama administration. I introduced an AOMF that would authorize the use of force against ISIS and al-Qaeda. I'm going to be reintroducing that after the recess. But even that authorization, even the argument the Obama administration used that the pre-existing authorizations were broad enough to go after ISIS in Syria, That rationale doesn't hold up, but even if it did, it wouldn't extend to attacks like this one on the regime.
It doesn't authorize attacks on the regime. None of what we're doing is legal. None of it. And that's Adam Schiff. When Adam Schiff agrees with Senator Mike Lee of Utah, you know that's bipartisanship. Oh my God. And what about, I'm not the president of the world. I'm the president of the United States of America. What happened to that? What about America first? America first. America first. We're going to make America first. This is such horse crap. Not even 100 days in. Not even 100 days in. 77. Unfreaking believable. Karen in Whittier, California.
Randy.
Hi.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
This is a freaking farce.
It is. Last night I was tweeting my brains out. I was just sitting there going, "Where is Congress? Where is Congress?"
I waited because I wanted to see exactly how this puppy was going to play out because something stunk. I was like, "Wait a minute. Nobody makes an about face that fast."
Yeah, really.
And not only that, then you find out when somebody attacks an airbase, what's one of the first things you go after?
The aircraft?
And the runways.
Yeah.
Because without the runways, you don't have a working airbase. You can always bring in more aircraft from other places. But you don't have it without the runways. My husband was Air Force too. My husband was out of Travis. Gateway to the Pacific. You bum out that and you're screwed. And without the runways, they don't have a working airbase.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden today, they're flying out of that airbase.
Yeah, they attacked homes today out of that airbase.
Yep. Airbase, fine. You take out the runways along with the aircraft.
Well, the aircraft. Okay, so here's what happens, and I'm sure you know this. So what happens is this: you decide you're going to attack Syria. So you make a phone call to Russia, right? And you say to Russia, "Get out of the way. We're attacking." This is why you have to tell what you're doing before you do it, right? Because you don't want international World War III. So he had to have told the Russians, and of course Tillerson lies, but we know from McMaster's that he does tell the Russians. So what do? They scramble their airplanes, okay? They get them out of that area. They say, we're attacking here, here, and here, and this is what we're going after, and we don't want to hurt you, so get out of the way. So they scramble. There should be no aircraft there. According to the post, the post operations reports, there were some aircraft there. We hit a couple of aircraft, and supposedly we were going after the runways, and we were going. And now I look today, and it's like they're flying out of that same airbase, and it's a little airbase. It's not. It's like a satellite airbase. It's not.
Yeah, it's not a big one.
No,
they didn't go after a major airbase. They went after a itty bitty one.
So they tell us last night, we severely damaged or destroyed Syrian aircraft and support infrastructure and equipment at the airfield, and we reduced the Syrian government's ability to deliver chemical weapons. That's what they said they accomplished. They reduced.
That's funny.
I know.
Anybody who knows, like I said, my husband's former military, my daddy's former military. Anybody who knows anything about the military, that's laughable.
It is.
Because first of all, my husband.
And think about it. And think about this. Yeah.
Airstrip.
Think about this though. Think about this. Last night, did you see Brian Williams get wood over the beauty of these Tomahawk missiles?
I stopped watching. I couldn't do it anymore.
Well, I very rarely watch that channel. I mean, I'm a CNN girl. That is really what I watch. And then I watch Fox to laugh, at just how cheesy their TV is, Fox and Friends. It's just so cheesy that, you wake up hysterical laughing when you watch that. But, okay, so I watched it last night after 11 o'clock. I wanted to see. And it's Brian Williams, the 11th hour. And I see him literally touching himself and getting wood over the beauty of the Tomahawk miss. It's just a beauty. Look at that. It's just, and quoting Leonard Cohen, I know. Oh my God. And I was like, this is sick. This is really off the hook. This is crazy. This is so freaking sick.
In Yeah, in addition to my husband being former Air Force, my husband's also in aerospace, so I see that a lot.
Oh, God. But check this out. What he's got and what all the other networks have at this point is Pentagon footage.
I know.
Now, the last time we saw Pentagon footage of missile launches was way, way back in the Gulf War. Okay? We saw these Scud missiles, and we called these reporters Scud studs.
Scud studs. I
Remember that? And it looked like a big video game, giant green screen with all these, like it looked like Pong. That's how antiquated it was, right? And then, of course, we had Bush 2 with shock and awe, and we watched the skies over Baghdad early that morning, and then we saw the bombs ready, and nobody has done that since them. And now all of a sudden we're back to Pentagon footage that you could get hot over the missiles. I told you yesterday, first of all, I said we were going to war if you elected Trump. There was no question in my mind we were going to war if you elected Trump. Okay, everybody knew that. And I was adamant about getting that on tape in the bank, researchable, reviewable on these podcasts. Okay, anybody can go and see what my position was. Then when he was elected, I said, okay, so now we're going to war. And then when his approval ratings started tanking, I go, now he needs to be a wartime president. And then when the whole thing about Russia started getting very, very heated and you couldn't throw a spitball at anybody in the White House that didn't have a Russian connection, I said, okay, now I know where we're going to war. And we're going to war in Syria. And there's no question in my mind. And we're going to be set up. And then we get set up. And then we actually attack them. And now I'm telling you what to watch for. And that is if the Russians and the Trump get together in Geneva and they come up with some grand bargain where they get to keep Crimea, sanctions come off, and they don't support Assad anymore, you know our president is executing Russian foreign policy.
Absolutely, because that was, like I said, this was a farce.
Mark it down, write it down. Karen in Whittier, California, and I were speaking on the phone at 55 minutes after the hour in the first hour on April 7th.
Absolutely.
Predicting.
Let me tell you, this is a joke. Because, actually, I told you, this was when the military actually wants something, our military, they don't make these kinds of mistakes. Our military is
Oh no! You know what we have, and you know what we have had for a very long time. I mean, it's so interesting. You talk to people like Malcolm Nance and others in the intelligence community who are free to speak a little bit, and they will tell you, hey, listen, the Google Earth is like, it's like World War I generation, yeah. And what we have, we can see, like the hair on Assad's head. We know where every single munitions, dump is. We know where every single, piece of infrastructure that he uses to fight this war. We know where the chemical weapons are. We know every storage facility. We know every inch of every highway. We know every inch of every airport. We know everything. Okay?
It's like a trial. There are no surprises.
Right. Exactly. And now all of a sudden we have the destroyers Porter and Ross off the coast launching, 59 Tomahawk missiles with, like I said, the only thing that had any precision associated with this were the Tomahawks and the guys who fire them.
And they miss runways, and it's like, they don't do that.
Right.
They don't miss.
No.
They don't. Our guys don't miss.
No, we don't miss.
Don't miss.
I know.
And it's like and then what they hit. I'm looking at the picture right now on the Washington Post. I'm looking at it, going, that's all they hit. This is a joke.
It's a joke. I know.
Seriously. Well,
I hear you.
You said, mark this day.
Mark this day. Thank you.
You have a good one, Randy.
Yeah, thank your husband, too. Thanks.
I will.
All right. Steve in Vermont.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Steve.
It's formerly Steve from Long Island.
Oh, hi.
Hi. I'm sorry, but you're so clairvoyant when it comes to this.
Here's the test. Here's the test for the trolls, okay? For the trolls that say, take off your tinfoil hat, whatever they're going to say to me. How many times have I been right, and how many times has your media that you rely on been wrong? That's the test. The test is just who gets it right over a period of 20 years, me or them.
I completely agree, and this is why you should be on XM. And in that 1 hour, in that space.
Well, here's what I do.
That is now free.
Okay, I know the guy that programs XM, okay? And every month I send him all the numbers. We get analytics once a month. And every month I send him the numbers, and it shows that the show is growing, that there's, 500,000 of us almost, and, how much activity goes on our websites and da-da-da-da-da. And, we have to compile it because we put the show so many different places that you have to add all the numbers up, right? So I send him every month the analytics, and I say, I listen on my way home, and it seems like there's a spot for me empty, with just reruns or with some third-rate. Why don't you consider it's plug and play? You don't have to do anything. You won't even have to make payroll. I do that for you, and I get like an answer. Oh, good to hear from you, and that's it. It's very strange.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me either.
Considering how screwed up they are over there, but maybe the airbase was like a facade, like in Blazing Saddles, and really we missed it altogether.
This is such a setup. Everybody that wants to get it will get it, and people who don't want to get it won't get it, and that's just the way this country is. But the man has a 34% approval rating. The time was ripe. It was just
because it's going down.
Yeah,
it keeps going down.
Now wait, now all of a sudden the America First kids, the ones that voted for him, they're gonna peel off too.
Oh well, because now he's a warmonger.
Yeah, exactly, and he is. I mean, I don't know that he's a warmonger. I know that he's a puppet of Putin's, and Putin wants out of Syria. They're going broke.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit randyrhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
The wall of water so powerful, entire neighborhoods washed away.
Historic rains cause catastrophic, deadly flooding in Colombia. Flint, Michigan residents force state to begin replacing lead-tainted water lines. Blue states take on Trump over energy efficiency standards. Coal pollution linked to high risk of low birth weight babies. Plus,
we will put our miners back to work.
New data shows Arby's and car washes employ more people than the U.S. coal industry.
That's why we got to put them back to work. All of those stories and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
My administration is putting an end to the war on coal. Gonna have clean coal, really clean coal.
Yes, clean coal. I know clean coal sounds like an oxymoron, but so does President Trump.
Getting used to it yet? This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, I'm sure you're going to beat up on Donald Trump in a moment, as you do, but hey, on Monday, he donated his first salary check as president to the National Park Service. Would you like to apologize to the president now?
No, it was only $78,000. And
only? That's a lot of money.
The National Park Service's maintenance and operations backlog is $12 billion. And Trump wants to cut the whole department by $2 billion.
Yeah, well, when you put it that way, maybe you got a point. What else do you have for us today?
Well, on a much more serious note, in Colombia, South America.
The streets of Mocoa, Colombia were consumed by a wall of water late Friday night. Heavy rain triggered the overflow of 3 rivers, and the flooding quickly turned into an avalanche of mud.
Torrential record rains overnight Saturday triggered catastrophic flash floods and mudslides in the city of Mocoa, a wall of water that officials say swept away entire neighborhoods while residents slept. As we go to air, at least 262 people are now confirmed dead, hundreds still missing. Colombia's President Juan Manuel Santos has declared state of emergency, and he blamed the disaster on climate change, which scientists say is intensifying extreme weather events. Here in the U.S., the U.S. Senate this week is battling over the confirmation of Judge Neil Gorsuch to the U.S. Supreme Court. Environmental groups oppose elevating Gorsuch, warning that his record is to the right of the late Justice Antonin Scalia on environmental and climate regulations that rein in industrial pollution. Meanwhile, the struggling community of Flint, Michigan will get 18,000 new water lines to begin replacing its lead-tainted water system. It's the result of a $100 million federal court settlement between the state of Michigan and a coalition of residents and environmental law groups who sued the state to force it to replace the water lines and continue delivering clean drinking water to residents.
About time, although it's going to take a number of years before all of those pipes can finally be replaced.
Which is why it's so important that the clean water deliveries continue. And environmental law groups are also mobilizing new lawsuits against the Trump administration's assault on public health. The Sierra Club and partner organizations have filed suit against President Trump's decision to approve a permit for the controversial Keystone XL pipeline from Canada on the grounds that Trump's sudden approval, reversing President Obama's prior rejection, violates the federal regulatory process. And 10 state attorneys general, with a coalition of environmental groups, are suing the Trump administration over its abrupt reversal of 6 proposed energy efficiency standards for a host of appliances, arguing it's a violation of federal law to arbitrarily delay standards that would save American homes and businesses an estimated $24 billion in energy costs.
And enough electricity to serve 36 million households annually.
Meanwhile, a new study links air pollution from coal-fired power plants to a higher risk of low birth weight babies. Scientists at the University of Pennsylvania found that women living downwind from a Pennsylvania coal-fired power plant had a much higher risk of having babies with low birth weight, less than 5.5 pounds at birth. That was compared to women living away from the plant's air pollution. The higher risk held true regardless of the mother's wealth or access to health care.
But of course, it is the less wealthy who tend to live closer to those coal plants in the first place.
That's true, but this study showed that air pollution knows no city limits. Finally, a new report raises questions about Trump's fixation on the coal industry. A new Washington Post analysis of county employment data finds that even fast food restaurant chain Arby's employs more people than the entire U.S. coal mining industry. The car wash industry, the theme park industry, J.C. Penney, and Whole Foods each employ twice as many Americans as the entire coal mine industry. This data raises questions of why so much of U.S. energy policy is directed at just one highly polluting industry.
Follow the money. The fossil fuel money.
Indeed.
You got a lot of news into today's report. Nice going. For more on those stories and the ones Desi couldn't get in today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Don't forget you can download our reports anytime via Stitcher, TuneIn, or iTunes. Find us and follow us and share us on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Follow where the money goes. Follow where the money goes.
This has been the Green News Report on the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn.
Mary, how does the false? We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
So I want to try and show you something that just as a little flashback.
All right, get him out. Get him out. Get him out.
You remember this rally in Louisville, Kentucky, where the where his, I don't know what to call them, the audience.
Get him out of here. Oh, look who we have here. Some wonderful people. Oh. Get out of here. Get out. Get out. Get out of here. Because Paris came in. Oh, we have another wise guy. Go ahead. Get him the hell out. Get him out. Yeah, don't hurt him. Don't hurt him. See, if I say, go get him, I get in trouble with the press. The most dishonest human beings in the world. The worst. Get out of here. Get out. 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 Get out.
Remember that? That was sort of a compilation of one night in Louisville, Kentucky. Okay, but you remember all the crap that happened at all the rallies. You remember the guy, I guess he was like 78-year-old man sucker punched an African American dude who was at a Trump rally for no damn reason. Yeah, well now all of a sudden you have a federal court. Yeah, a federal court saying that this case can go forward. This is a case of inciting violence. Seriously, in Kentucky, a federal court judge, the Trump lawyer, moved to dismiss the case, saying that Donald Trump had First Amendment, privileges, and everybody does, and he's allowed to say whatever he wants, and blah blah blah. Yeah, well, the judge said this. He said. At the rally, Trump repeatedly said, "Get him out of here! Get him out of here! Get him out! 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 Out!" And the protesters were shoved and punched by Trump supporters. So it went to court. One of the supporters brought a case saying that Trump was inciting violence against them at one of the rallies. And the judge, his name is Judge David Hale. He's a federal judge in Kentucky. He has now ruled against the efforts by Trump's attorneys to throw out the lawsuit accusing Donald Trump of inciting violence against protesters at this rally in Louisville in March of 2016. He said, regarding the First Amendment, he said speech inciting violence is not protected by the First Amendment. And he also ruled that there is plenty of evidence that the protesters' injuries were a direct and proximate result of Trump's words. He said it is plausible that Trump's direction to get him out of here, get him out, advocated the use of force. It was an order, an instruction, a command. Oh, snap. So we were right about that too. People are, he's got a First Amendment right to that. You can't incite violence. You can't be doing that. If he stood up on that stage in a packed house and started screaming there was a fire and everybody got trampled, he'd be just as liable as he is now standing up there going, get him out, get him out, get him out. If I say hurt him, well then the press is his problem. No, the law is your problem. And the same damn thing applied to that Muslim ban that was all directed at Syrian refugees. The babies he suddenly loves, right? He did a Muslim ban because he didn't want Syrian refugees to come into this country because he didn't know what the hell was going on there. And Syria was war torn and there was no way to vet them, which was bullcrap. But remember when he did his Muslim ban #1, the court in Washington state found that his words, Donald J. Trump is for a complete and total shutdown of a Muslim ban, and his surrogate's words, Rudy Giuliani, going, well, I'll tell you, Judge Janine, he asked me for a Muslim ban. So I said, sure, I can make it legal. They said that was intent to discriminate against Muslims. And so his own damn words are coming back to bite him in the ass. And then the second time he tried a Muslim ban, he had idiot, what's his name, Miller. This Miller dude, the guy with the pasty, the pasty white blank look on his face. That dull, useless look. Remember, he stood up, he goes, well, Muslim ban 2 is going to be Muslim ban 1. We're just rewording it. That played against them in the court in Hawaii. And also Rudy Giuliani, and also Donald J. Trump is calling for a complete... And they said his words show his intent. And so this is a religious ban, is what it is. So it's all coming back to bite him in the ass. And I promise you that this attack on this little airstrip in Syria is going to be the death knell of it. And, I got to say, Congress, of course, is on vacation. Yeah, Congress actually is on vacation as of now. So what did they do today? They blew up they nuked the Senate. Nunes is under investigation. Then they bomb Syria, and they go, okay, time for vacation. I feel satisfied. I feel sated. I feel satiated. Feel good. Time to go. And they're all on vacation now, so you couldn't even vote to give him the authority. So if anything happens while Congress is out, but beyond that, when Congress comes back, or if Comey decides to, indict the president, all bets are off. The whole thing implodes. Everything implodes. So these are interesting times, people. Karen in Los Angeles.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, can I just say thank you? And I bought a stinking podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's very important. I'm trying to save up money now. I want to do a real ad campaign on the TV, and it's super expensive, and I'm trying.
You are succeeding. You're not just trying, you are succeeding.
I'm trying. I want to get it on the TV so bad because, I've always said this as being a radio talk show host for my whole life and now doing this on the internet. I have to tell you, if it's not on the TV, it didn't happen. So I got to get some TV ads on. My biggest complaint against these corporate entities that I worked for all these years was they never advertised anything. And I want to do it for us. I want to put it on, I want to put a commercial on in LA. I want to put a commercial on in San Francisco. I want to put a commercial on in Portland, Oregon. I want to do it in New York too. But it's really super expensive. So I'm trying.
You know what? You're gonna. It's gonna happen because we need someone like you that thinks like you, that's more progressive and gets it. I mean, I have an aunt who's brilliant like you are, so I respect you completely. I would never argue with her for anything because she knows everything. And so, so anyways, I totally just I appreciate your presence, even on the internet, wherever you are.
Well, vice versa. Thank you. It goes both ways. It does.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I was calling because, I think you kind of said answered my question. But, we all know this is a setup because I saw the Russia talking to the UN or NATO?
Yeah, I saw it today, too.
Vladimir, he was crying and he was saying it could have been just a storage unit that went off. It was a mistake.
Yeah, why don't you investigate? And of course we did. We absolutely did. And we know we're pretty much sure it's sarin. And we pretty much saw the actual plane, dropping the bomb. We actually saw it. And it's been captured. It's been analyzed. The forensics were done, even though the Russians, this is so devious, man. This is what we're up against. The Russians tried to bomb the hospital where the victims were taken so there wouldn't be any bodies to autopsy to do the toxicology reports.
Wow.
That's so sick. Who thinks like this?
They do.
Yes, they do.
They do.
I know.
I mean, you call it they're thugs.
I know, they are thugs.
They're
so killers.
In that hand in hand. But my question was, what happens? Okay, so Trump and the Russians do the horse trade. They get the sanctions removed. First off, can Trump just remove the sanctions by himself, or does he have to have Congress involved?
No, he can.
He can?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, because I'm like, well, then, so he removes the sanctions, but then don't we then know what's really going on, or does he think he's still going to be able to be president? I mean, can we I don't see. This is where I get confused because I figure that it's like, okay, everybody's saying this is all a setup. Do we still go after him with Russia after the fact, or does he just go, you know what?
Hell yeah. And here's why. Okay. And here's why, Karen, because this isn't our foreign policy. This is Russia's foreign policy.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the idea that sanctions for invading your neighbors could end because you gassed people?
Yeah.
How ridiculous. But that is the game they're playing. This is the goal that Russia has in mind, and this is the way that they're trying to affect it. So you've got a president that will play footsie with Russia, and he will implement Russia's foreign policy. Everything from allowing, the bombing of innocent civilians for years and years, and tweeting that you were, don't go in there, I'm telling you, and then all of a sudden becoming the president, Russia goes, okay, here's what we're going to do. We want out of there. We've always wanted out of there, and we don't know how to get out of there. But we want something in exchange, and you'll look strong, and this will be great. Plus, all the Russia questions will go away because now we're enemies. Get it? Wink, wink. So let's release a little gas, and then you'll retaliate against a small airfield, but you'll give us a heads up because you don't want to hurt us, and we don't want to shoot you down, which they would have done if they hadn't been notified. And then we'll go to the table and we'll say, in the name of Middle East peace, here's what we're going to do. Russia wants to operate in Crimea. I always thought the Crimeans wanted to be part of Russia anyway. So let them have it. Let them work it out. Meanwhile, he's not going to support Assad anymore. And won't that be great? And see how strong I am. But that's not our foreign policy. Our foreign policy is that if you have a dictator in Syria and he's threatening our allies, you go to NATO. NATO sticks together and NATO takes care of him and gets him the hell out.
Got it.
Right.
Okay. So all right. So then afterwards, we still go after him. I always thought that what would happen is he just would come to the podium and say, Barron's sick and I got to go. So take Mike Pence, your turn. And, high five him in. That's how I always figured he would do it.
Oh, no. I always saw him going down in flames. Everybody used to say, oh, he's going to lose interest. He's going to quit. And I said, no, he will never quit. Never, ever, never, ever quit. No, he will bankrupt America, and figure out a way to make money doing that for himself. But he will never quit. Never.
So now when you said something just a minute ago about Comey could indict him. Can Comey, I thought, wait, I'm confused.
Okay, Comey can send a criminal, a criminal recommendation, asking for the Justice Department. Then it'll be up to Jeff Sessions, but Sessions has recused himself. So it would be up to the Deputy Attorney General. And, if the president has a criminal complaint, if Comey files a criminal complaint with the DOJ, with the Justice Department, then believe me, the House of Representatives is going to have, ahead of an election, oh my God, they will have had it with him. Especially once this military action peels off the America First portion of his support, and it will, because he promised them he wasn't an interventionist. He promised them. That's what he sold them. And, of course, now he's all involved, over there again in another Middle East country.
Okay. You're just way too smart for me.
Yeah.
I'm still stuck on 2 + 2, but it's all good.
It's all good.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful weekend.
You have the most adorable voice. I wish I sounded like you. I really
Thank you.
All right. Bye. Rick in Los Angeles.
Hey.
Randy,
Rick
hi.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. She does have a beautiful voice.
Didn't she? She had the cutest voice. She had that little raspy thing going on, but it was just enough.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. Absolutely.
Very cute.
Anyway, I wanted to talk about this attack, and clearly it is a case of wag the dog. And you can tell based on how little damage there is to that air base.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even hit the frickin' runways,
We don't miss. Karen from Whittier was correct. We do not miss.
No, because, they were showing, there was a compare and contrast on CNN this morning. They were showing an air base in Iraq in 2003 that was struck by a bunch of cruise missiles. And they were huge, like craters, in strategic parts of the runway, so you couldn't use it anymore. And so, we just wasted, I guess, $59 million of money with the 59, cruise missiles, trying to attack hardened.
It's more like $120 million because their Tomahawks are about $1.5 million.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was about $100 million worth of missiles last night.
Yeah, so real good investment, and the targets that were hit were apparently hardened hangars, which they were basically missile proof. So. It's like, what have you accomplished? And
but what's even more important? What's next? Was this it? Is there more coming?
Yeah.
Where is Congress? They're on vacation. How do you strike? First of all, when you're not in the Situation Room. Number two, you're having dinner with the Chinese president. What are you trying to, convince him that you'll nuke North Korea? I mean, what was that anyway? And number three, how do you do it when Congress is set to go on vacation and you didn't get any authorization from them to use any force against a regime that you might not like, but is a sovereign nation nonetheless? How do you do that just ahead of them going on vacation?
Yeah, well, the timing is very suspect.
It's all bad.
This is like kabuki theater, the way the Russians and the Americans were at the UN and what have you. And, geez, I'm shocked. I'm outraged that you dropped these missiles. And I mean, of course, with a nuclear power, you have to tell them ahead of time, hey, we're going to hit this, get your people out of there. Okay, I can understand that.
Yeah, but Tillerson lied. Why did he lie?
Yeah, it's so strange.
It is.
And, I mean, I think Trump is going to go down, I hope. And I hope the sanctions somehow don't get removed as well. So we'll see.
Well, he could take them off, and then, we can find somebody that will put them back on.
Right, right, exactly.
But, yeah.
All right, Randy.
Thank you.
You enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Uh-huh.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, it's just, this is so, it's so obvious how what a setup this is.
Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
You know I love herky jerky. You know I do. It's my favorite snack. Why? Big protein, big flavor, big packs, little carbs. You know the bacon. The bacon is a slab. It is the most amazing thing. You can put it on your BLTs. You can use it in salads. Munch it right out of the bag. Take it everywhere you go. Personally, I do love the sticks. They fit in the purse and they have the right bite. And they come in a multitude of flavors. Elk, venison, buffalo. It is incredible. And right now in the month of April, you will receive a surprise sample pack. But I'll tell you what it is. It's turkey bacon. It is so delicious and it is just free. All you got, there's no promo code needed. Just get the free sample pack and enjoy. Now, I've shopped for jerky everywhere, supermarkets to gourmet, but herky jerky is the exact right jerky. It's the best, and this is not a 3-ounce frou-frou bag. These are big, beautiful, nearly 1-pound bags of fresh, delicious, perfectly spiced jerky that bites and chews like homemade, handmade jerky should. Herkyjerky.com.
Tales of American Political History with Clinton Porter Hackney.
We've been discussing Mr. Elbridge Gerry and the Constitutional Convention of 1787. Each state at the convention had one vote determined by majority vote of its delegates. What would prove critical was that if a state delegation was evenly split, it had no vote. The small states were fighting for an equal number of senators as the large states, and it was likely the only issue that could have dissolved the nation. For most of June and July, there were only 10 states in attendance, and they were deadlocked, 5-5. On July 15th, after 10 days of debate, Elbridge Gerry convinced his colleague Caleb Strong to vote with him against the other 2 delegates from Massachusetts, creating a tie vote within their delegation. This meant Massachusetts had no vote, and the small states won their fight 5-4. And that's why every state in the Union has had 2 senators representing them since the nation's inception. This is Clinton Porter Hackney at cphackney.com.
Here's a sample of what you'll hear on the Leslie Marshall Show weekdays, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern on the Progressive Voices Network. The court makes many decisions with regard to working families. They rule on whether people are paid properly for the time that we work. Also, if we are out caring for somebody who is sick in our family, that we have a job to return to. Also, do we have safety measures in place? Are we safe on the job from harmful substances or from, harmful behavior? Are we protected from being fired illegally when we choose to form unions? And if you look at the record of Neil Gorsuch, it is deeply troubling with regard to workers' treatment, workers' rights, and protections for the American worker, the working class, the middle class, the majority of the American people. Hear the whole story on the Leslie Marshall Show, Monday to Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4 p.m. Pacific on the Progressive Voices Network.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I like to think of myself as a very flexible person. I don't have to have one specific way, and if the world changes, I go
what changed?
The same way. I don't change. Well, I do change, and I am flexible, and I'm proud of that
he's
flexibility.
a yoga master.
And I will tell you, that attack on children yesterday had a big impact on me.
Liar.
Big impact. That was a horrible, horrible thing. And I've been watching it and seeing it, and it doesn't get any worse than that. And I have that flexibility, and it's very, very possible. And I will tell you, it's already happened, that my attitude toward Syria and Assad has changed very much.
He's a lion sack of duty. I mean, honest to God, man, the attack on Damascus, the attack in 2013, the one that Obama sought to get congressional approval for, to retaliate. Here, show my screen for a minute, Rogo. This is unbelievable. Here's what it looked like. These were all the members of Congress. This is how they were going to vote, okay, on the use of force in Syria when Obama asked for it after 1,000 people were gassed, okay? So here you see the Senate. This first column here is support, only 24. In the House, support in favor of military strike, only 32. You see, nobody wanted that. Undecided, 213, and against. Look at the House, against 181, and the Senate against 29. There was no way that they were going to give him this authority. So, Obama had to go through diplomatic channels. He worked with Russia. Russia said that they would help, scrape up all these chemical weapons. Whether they did or not, I don't know. It is completely possible that they did do it. It is possible that they did it. But it's also possible that they left some, just a little bit, like enough to kill 86 people. And it's also possible that Syria had the technology to create more. So we don't know. But what we do know is, back in 2013, when 1,000 people were gassed in a major city, Trump was tweeting naked on his bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, and not against Meryl Streep. Oh, no. He was tweeting against Barack Obama. And now all of a sudden he's had this epiphany? What, these new pictures of these new 26 kids? That did it for him. That actually did it for him. No, the Russians did it. The Russians made the decision. The Russians said, hey, we need to appear as if we're enemies. You are under investigation because we worked together to get you elected. And this is all very inconvenient for us. We thought when we put you in there, we thought that when we ran all this fake news and we hired 1,000 trolls and we invested all this money and time in getting you to be the leader of America, we thought we could get our money's worth out of you. And you know what? We're not. You know why? Because you're a fumbling idiot. You're a clown car. You brought all this chaos to the cover-up, and now we can't act together. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it look like you and me are mortal enemies. And the way we'll do it is in Syria. We don't even want to be there anymore. But we want something out of this. So here's what you're going to do. We're going to allow for a chemical attack, and then we're going to be outraged at your retaliation for it. And you will retaliate. Congress, schmongress, you are going to do it. And then after it's done, we'll look like enemies. Then we get to sit down and negotiate a peace between us. And in that peace between us, you're going to make concessions to us. And you're going to let me, Vlad, have Crimea. And you're going to take the damn sanctions off of my country. And we're going to go forward with this ExxonMobil deal. And everybody will be happy. But the only way we can do it, because you are such a bumbling idiot, is to make us look like enemies. And this is how we're going to do it. Now, I could be wrong. I could be right. The way you'll know is if this happens. Mike in Boston.
Hey, Randy. Good to talk to you again.
Thank you.
First things first, everybody out there who's listening, buy a stinking podcast.
Thank you.
I've had mine for 9 months. Love it, love it, love it.
Oh, good.
Second of all, this guy he's a total jerk. He has no political knowledge of anything. He thinks the world is just something that he can pick up on his... I'm beginning to think that his Twitter account isn't even him. I think it's somebody else tweeting stuff and then showing him what he tweeted and him believing it because it says his name. I mean, honestly, the guy is an absolute idiot. There is one, and I say only one, possible, maybe redeeming quality that could happen is that they could go to the table with Russia, they can make all these negotiations, and then in typical fashion, he'll just say, no, you can have Crimea, but I'm not taking the sanctions off you. I paid you enough already, which is what he's done with the rest of his life. So,
oh, you mean he's
have a great weekend, Randy. We love you.
Well, thank you very much. I love you too. But honest to God, man, the idea that if we let Vladimir Putin keep Crimea, 8,000 people died in Crimea fighting against Vlad's annexation of Crimea, they always leave out the dead people when they talk about Vlad's annexation of Crimea. And I don't know why. But if you do that, then Vlad takes all of Ukraine, and the Ukrainians aren't going to be very happy about that. It's disgusting because they fought so hard to be independent. And then he takes Estonia, then he takes Lithuania, maybe Azerbaijan, which has always been his dream. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't allow this madman to just run ramshot and take his neighbors who are trying to build democracies to recreate his wet dream of the former Soviet Union all over again. Vladimir Putin is not our friend. Vladimir Putin is a conqueror. Vladimir Putin is a power monger. Vladimir Putin is a killer. He is a thug. He is a mass murderer. He kills anybody and everybody that gets in his way, including whistleblowers, journalists, his neighbors. He's invaded Georgia. He's invaded Ukraine. He annexed Crimea. This man isn't close to being done if we turn a blind eye to the annexation of Crimea or say, okay, the sanctions can come on. It's ridiculous. This is absolute stupidity. But remember, the people who would come to the aid of these republics, of these, burgeoning democracies, of these people trying to get out from under, the kleptocracy of Russia, they would look to NATO. I mean, not all of it, they're not members of NATO. This was the big argument, whether or not Lithuania, Estonia, these other, former Soviet republics should be allowed to join NATO. Meaning that if Vladimir Putin attacks them, Vladimir Putin attacks all the NATO members, and we all attack Vladimir Putin. This is why Trump keeps saying, NATO's obsolete. NATO's obsolete. We got to pull out of NATO. Got to pull out of NATO. Now, what's going on right now? Last night, he made a statement, and he said, this is a threat to all of our allies. If that's true, then he should have consulted NATO, and this should have been a joint effort between Britain, Germany, France, our NATO allies. It should have been Australia. It should have been, but it wasn't, because he's full of crap. He's full of crap. Paul in Woodinville, Washington.
Well, Randy, you pretty well explained the whole setup the way I've thought of it.
Thank God. Thank God other people think this way, because you know what did it for me, though? I mean, obviously, I know he's a puppet of Putin, and I was thinking along those lines anyway. But I had read King Abdullah's interview in the Washington Post in the homework section today at randyrhodes.com. In the homework section, there is an article, and it's tagged, "If you only read one thing, read this." And it is the interview with King Abdullah and the Washington Post, where he says Crimea is the most important thing to Putin. He doesn't really care about Syria. There can be horse trading, and what should happen and what could happen is that Trump and Putin get together, and Trump says, "Hey, Putin, you can keep Crimea, and you get out of Syria, and everybody's happy."
Well, yeah, and I mean, none of it adds up. The first thing is the chemical weapons that have been in Syria this week and whatever 4 years ago, I'm sure belong to Russia. I mean, think about it this way. The Iraq invasion was 14 years ago as of March 19th. Do you think that any country in that region would have chemical weapons and nobody else knows about it, especially this crumbling disaster called Syria that the neighbors such as Jordan, such as Turkey, and especially Israel would say, "Oh, we didn't know that Assad had sarin gas." Really? No. I don't believe for a minute that Syria has their own chemical weapons. First of all, it's very, when you have a crumbling, I mean, I know something about the chemistry. It's very difficult to make, and especially mostly the manufacturing and storage. You don't just store it in some corrugated metal shed out in the desert. I mean, this is what we're being led to believe, that this. And Assad says, "Why we hit the shed and it blew up and everything." And we're so sorry about that, but it belonged to the worst lies that it belonged to the rebels. I don't think so.
Oh God, no.
No. So this was provided by Putin exactly for the reason. And I was saying to Howard, for this reason, so it gives Trump an excuse to do this sort of wet finger in the air straw poll.
Yeah.
And I'm sure telephones will be ringing this afternoon and this weekend. what do you think of President Trump's action in Syria? Do you strongly disagree? Strongly disagree on the scale of 1 to 5?
Yeah.
Okay, and so then we're going to hear that. And what is your favorability rating? Okay, so then if his numbers go up, then this is an interest in saying, yeah, we can go forward with getting in the Middle East, because look at it this way too. Not only does Russia not want to be in Syria, Russia would not be permitted to do any military action in Syria. I'm telling you, if they were setting up the stars and stripes in every country, they wouldn't be permitted, because that is our rat hole. That is our boondoggle. You think that Russia would have been permitted to invade Iraq and take out Saddam Hussein? No effing way. That's what we do. So Russia, they might have military interests there, but what Putin has done is say, hey, Donald, you take care of it for us.
Exactly. I know. It's so obvious. It's so easy to see it. It's just right in front of your freaking face. The fact that he loved Putin. You know what's interesting? That whole Rose Garden thing with Abdullah. He never once mentioned Russia. I know every pundit breathlessly reported that to you. Well, he never mentioned Russia. He didn't mention. Of course he didn't. Because he is Russia. You're looking at him, you're looking at Putin. It's the same thing, except that, Trump is an empty scarecrow shell of a man who has Putin's, ideology poured into his brain.
Right, and then listen to this. And so then it's kind of like the foreign policy was serious. Go ahead and have your civil war. Allow tens of thousands of women and children to become desperate refugees, which we will not take.
Right.
But hey, if there starts being sarin gas tossed around and little babies die, that's it. We're going to lob cruise missiles. We're going to do the manly thing and lob cruise missiles. And by the way, I will tell you, do you know why they didn't hit the runways?
No.
Because if you hit the runways, we can't use them. That's what we're planning on using the runways. That's what he said. Don't blow up the runways. Then our Air Force can't.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure. I think one of the reasons, I don't know. I think one of the reasons we didn't, completely take out the runway is because Russia told them not to, because they want to use the runways.
Well, somebody does.
Somebody does. Yeah, somebody does. And also, apparently at that airport, there are chemical weapons. And the big question is, because there are Russian pilots that use that airstrip, there are Russian planes, Russian pilots that use that airstrip, there is a big question about what did those pilots would know every single mission that was being flown out of there. And they would know if their colleagues, if their comrades were loading chemical weapons on planes a few days ago. They would know. They would know every mission that flew out of that airbase. Every single one.
Are you telling me that there are chemical weapons at the airport?
Yes. And
Russian planes are using the airport? Yeah, of course.
Right.
The reason they're there is because that's where Putin's planes left them.
That's right, and that's why we didn't go crazy, because last night on the phone call, Russia said, "Hey, be careful around there, because that's where we loaded all the chemical gas. That's where everything is. Don't go crazy, because you'll blow it up and it'll be a toxic plume, and you'll kill our guys." That's
no problem.
why
We have beautiful cruise missiles. Isn't it just a beautiful thing to watch?
Oh man, that gave me the creeps. I've always hated that show. I always said it was the worst show on MSNBC. But last night it just surpassed all expectations.
Happy beer.
Yeah, thank you. It was bad.
Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Well, the Trump administration suffered a humiliating defeat on health care. So next up, the Trump economic plan. Are you familiar with a game called Three Card Monte? All you got to do is find Trump's amazing economic plan under the cup, and you win. Where is it? Is it over here? No. Is it over there? No. It must be over here. No. Unfortunately, like so many things, Trump, it's just another big con job. So when it comes to your own financial future, don't play the game. Protect your wealth. Use a timeless, tried and true investment like gold. Call my friends at ITM Trading at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and get a free gold kit and learn how to diversify your investment portfolio with precious metals. Call ITM Trading today at 1-888-OWN-GOLD for guidance from their precious metals experts. They have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and they've helped tens of thousands of people buy gold and silver coins and bars. Let them help you too. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD, 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
Hi, I'm Laura Flanders for the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn. Slashing social safety nets, cutting people's programs, shrinking life chances and everyone's chance of enjoying clean water. My email box has begun to read like a horror movie script with non-stop terror and round-the-clock slashing. The reason? Democrats and their pals are alarmed about the administration's budget. Sure enough, it's scary. The GOP White House wants to strip $54 billion from spending on all things human and ecological to increase already massive military spending. The president's plan would boost spending on so-called defense to well over 60 cents of every discretionary dollar. It's the largest budget share in decades. That's even as Donald Trump himself admits that years of multi-trillion-dollar spending have, as he put it on the campaign trail, left the Middle East far worse than it was 16 or 17 years ago. Let's not forget that when it comes right down to it, the U.S. already spends more than the next 8 countries. That's China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, France, the U.K., India, Germany, and Japan combined. The U.S. military is right now in 150 countries. Just how many are there? Sounding one hell of an alarm is right, but let's get one thing clear. For all those small government advocates out there, especially the ones that might have voted for Trump-Pence and be about to lose their drinking water, this administration isn't actually proposing to cut. It's proposing to convert public dollars to private ones by way of shifting them to private corporations that do business with the military. As economist Michael Hudson explains, governments use so-called national security to subsidize private manufacturing and research. That's to say, it's a way to put public money in private hands. Don't like socialism for poor people? You certainly shouldn't like it for rich private corporations. The companies in question have no motivation to do anything well or efficiently. The more they charge, the more they profit. And the profit doesn't come back to us, those of us who shelled out our taxes. It goes to private shareholders. We'll never know exactly how each defense dollar is spent, because while it's the government's biggest spender, it's the one department that's never subject to an audit. And just why is that? The cities of Charlottesville, Virginia, and New Haven, Connecticut, as well as Montgomery Church, Maryland, a county of over 1 million, have passed resolutions recently opposing the president's program and calling on Congress to shift funds in the opposite direction. Your town, city, or county could do the same. WorldBeyondWar.org has more information. In the meantime, though, don't let Trump turn your head. It's not about cuts. It's about converting public dollars to private, concentrating public power and wealth, and building up stockpiles of deadly force that will be felt in our streets and in our politics. Which takes me back to where I began. It's a horror show. You can see my interview with economist Michael Hudson about his book, J is for Junk Economics, at our website. That's lauraflanders.com. And sign up for our free weekly e-newsletter or our full-length podcast. Thanks for listening. For the Laura Flanders Show and Progressive Voices on TuneIn, I'm Laura Flanders.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Putin go up and say, you say you and Putin are going to be close. Did Putin go up to your office and did you guys bond or anything this week? He's in town.
No, I didn't know anything about him coming to my office, but I will tell you that I think in terms of leadership, he's getting an A and our president is not doing so well. They did not look good together.
What do you think Putin is up to in the Middle East? He's moving planes. He's moving advisors into Syria. What is he up to?
Well, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives, wounded warriors all over, and Putin is now taking over what we started. And he's going into Syria, and he frankly wants to fight ISIS, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I said that a year ago, and everybody said, oh, that's terrible. If he wants to fight ISIS, let him fight ISIS. Why do we always have to do everything? But he wants to go in. He wants to fight ISIS. Now, he wants to keep, as you know, he wants to keep your leadership, your current leadership, Assad, in Syria. Personally, I've been looking at the different players, and I've been watching Assad, and I've been pretty good at this stuff over the years because deals are people. And I'm looking at Assad and saying maybe he's better than the kind of people that we're supposed to be backing because we don't even know.
Yeah,
who
but he's
we're
a
backing,
mass
Bill. We have no
murderer
idea.
with the gas and all of that. But what's the downside of Putin fighting
We
ISIS?
don't know.
What's the downside of Putin fighting ISIS?
I say there's very little downside with Putin fighting ISIS, and Putin wants to keep ISIS out of Russia, and therefore he's become very active with
I'm
respect
gonna tell you
to
what the
ISIS.
downside is.
And I think that's to our benefit.
I'm going to tell you what the downside is.
You're going to say the downside is we're losing control of the Middle East.
No.
But with
once
this kind of leadership,
Putin
we're never
gets
going to have
in,
control of anything.
Once Putin gets in and fights ISIS on behalf of Assad, Putin runs Syria. He owns it. He'll never get out. Never.
This is during the campaign. Assad's okay. You know, hey, he said it many, many times, just so you know. That's just one clip of Chester and Lester the molesters talking to each other, okay? It's amazing what's happening there with the two of them, with the sexual harassment and and now racial discrimination at Fox News. Oh my God, what a channel! Anyway, Chester and Lester the molester got together on one of Chester's shows, and he said, you know, whatever you say about Assad, he's better. He's better than anybody else that we could put in there. Putin's fighting ISIS. No, we're fighting ISIS. We are in Raqqa, and Russia they turn a blind eye to our American presence in Raqqa because we're fighting ISIS in Raqqa. Putin is protecting Assad, and he would like to stop protecting Assad. But idiot boy here, Lester, the clown car chaos candidate, now president, is like, well, now it looks like I am your puppet. How do we fix that? In the American psyche, how do we? Because if I do anything for you now, they're going to say I'm doing it because I'm your puppet. I can't have it. I got a 34% approval rating already. They find out that I'm your that I'm your boy. What do we do? Well, let's make it look like we're enemies. Let's make it look like we're enemies. We'll do a little bit of a gas attack. People are very sensitive about that. We'll show all the pictures on international news. You do it too. And then you could be the hero. You'll ride in there. You'll take a little, strike. You'll call us. You'll tell us when. You'll tell us where. We'll tell you what not to hit because we know where the chemical weapons are. You do too, but, you won't do the research, but we'll tell you. And then after that, we'll look like enemies. Once we look like enemies, then we can negotiate at a grand bargain. Rex Tillerson is going to Moscow Tuesday. What are you doing Tuesday? What are you doing on Tuesday? I mean, this is incredible. He asked for no information. Listen, here's the thing. You're supposed to be in constant contact with all of our allies so that everyone knows where they all stand in any number of scenarios. But to do that, you would have to have a functioning State Department. And to have a functioning State Department, you would need to have nominated people for more than 20 out of the 500 upper-level State Department posts. That's why Rex Tillerson just says whatever he says. He lied last night. We didn't talk to the Russians. Oh, the hell we didn't. Of course we did. We know that because General McMaster said we did. And in all these players, I'll pick him to be telling the most truth. How's that? I mean, the closest Trump probably came to any sort of consultation with anybody was leaning over at dinner last night to Chinese President Xi at Mar-a-Lago and saying, wait till you see what happens later. This is going to be so cool. Dessert! Try the meatloaf. It's my mother's recipe. Good. Todd in South Carolina.
Hi, Randy. How you doing today?
I'm good.
Listen, you're doing a great job.
Yes.
I'm glad. You were in front with this nonsense.
Thank you.
But there's something that I think that the regular, and I'm not going to say no fake media because that's a nonsense, but something that's being lost is that years ago, hey, Poppy, stop. Is that
Poppy better be a dog.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, you silly. Anyway, yeah. So years ago, when that first gas attack happened in Syria, that might have been Syria, but that's when they sent the UN in to destroy all the chemicals. And
No, we didn't send the UN in. We didn't. We sent Russia in.
Okay, well, it was inspected, and most of that stuff was destroyed. But my point is that what's been being lost is that just like radioactivity, these chemicals have markers on them that make it, just like explosives, that make it very easy to identify where the stuff is coming from. And that's being lost in this whole conversation.
Well, I don't know that that's true because I don't know, who made it, and I don't know if they left markers. All I could tell you is this, that after the gassing occurred in Idlib, and those patients were taken to Turkey. They were taken over the border to Turkish hospitals, and they were taken to local, as many as they could get. The hospital where they were taken was bombed by, we think, the Russians. Now, why would they do that? They did that so there would be no autopsies, no toxicology reports.
Right. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that there are markers. I mean, I remember this distinctly because the first thing the UN said after that inspection, after the second gas incident years ago, was that, well, this was not Syria. It came from somewhere else. And my point is that there is a way. And that's why now people are like, well, maybe it's Russian gas because they know it's slow. But the bigger point is that, of course, we all know it's a distraction, and you're on point with that. But it will come out. It's just going to be slow. It will come out because there are markers. And,
well, we'll wait and see because I don't know that there are. I remember, in fertilizer, we wanted to put tagans. I remember that so we could trace, if people were using it for bombs. I know Iraq had UN inspectors. I'm not sure Syria ever had UN inspectors. Are you?
I know. I mean, I remember following this. I was actually...
All right, I'll take your word for it, but I'll look it up, too, and see.
Yeah, check it out.
All right, I will. But I think the creepiest part of it all, I mean, there's nothing more creepy than the photos of people being gassed. That aside, the creepiest thing subsequent to the gassing was the bombing of the hospital to remove any bodies, to incinerate them, so that there could be no autopsies and obviously no toxicology reports. Dave in Indianapolis.
How are you, Randy?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. This is David. This is AKA Prime Time. It's good to see you.
Good.
But yeah, quick question. Quick couple things, Randy. 2 points. One, I believe this whole bombing of Syria is definitely a ruse. Just like you said, it was a tiny gesture to seem like he says, well, I'm not in bed with Assad and Russia.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's getting his smoke screen. And then what people are forgetting is Devin Nunes. People don't understand how significant this is. Devin Nunes had to step down and recuse himself from the investigation because of ethics violations. This is another shoe that has dropped.
Yes, Devin Nunes had to recuse himself from the investigation into Trump because Devin Nunes is now under investigation.
This is getting laughable.
It's so bizarre.
Another point, Randy, I want to say this, and I'm gonna let you go. I've been getting so pissed lately from what I'm seeing on the news about them blaming President Obama, saying that he did nothing, and that is one of the most disrespectful claims I have ever seen. Besides asking for his birth certificate.
Yeah.
Are they not forgetting that he had a resolution of consent in 2013 that the Republicans said absolutely no?
It wasn't just the Republicans. Everybody said no. Everybody
said no. He wanted to attack. But you got these chingy head ass talking heads out there talking about, well, President Obama didn't do anything. He did.
Yes, he did.
He tried, but everybody shut him down, and they never had his back.
That's
true. That's all I have to say, Randy. You keep up the good fight because you are absolutely awesome.
Well, thank you. You are too. Thank you so much, and thanks for retweeting me. I see you doing it.
No problem.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you later, Randy.
Okay.
Have a good week.
Bye-bye. Yeah, it's one of the things. I remember everybody. It's kind of creepy. But here, watch this.
After careful deliberation, I have decided that the United States should take military action against Syrian regime targets.
This was after the first
Before
gassing.
launching military action, American presidents generally hope to draw support from three places: Congress, the American people, and allies abroad. In the case of a possible military strike in Syria, support appears to be in short supply.
CIA, hands off Syria! USA, CIA!
These are Syrians.
Recent polls indicate that a majority of the American public does not support military action against Syria. Similar polls showed greater support for the intervention in Libya in 2011 and for the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Mr. Obama faced criticism from some lawmakers that he didn't adequately consult Congress before committing American troops to the battle in Libya. And when he was a senator, Mr. Obama himself was a vocal critic of military involvement in Iraq.
This is not America. This is not who we are. It's time for us to stand up and tell George Bush that the government in this country is not based on the whims of one person. The government is of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Though he has now called on Congress to authorize a limited strike in Syria, he still appears to lack the broad support of international allies.
So the noes have it, the noes have it.
That's Britain voting no.
Last week, even the British Parliament voted against taking military action. The administration argues that the atrocities in Syria are so grave that the United States and the international community must act.
Instead of being tucked safely in their beds at home, we saw rows of children lying side by side, sprawled on a hospital floor, all of them dead from Assad's gas and surrounded by parents and grandparents who had suffered the same fate.
We would not put boots on the ground. Instead, our action would be designed to be limited in duration and scope.
Lawmaker.
Yeah, they said no. They said no. Rich in Denver.
Hey, Randy, awesome show as usual. Hey, I thought the Siberian stooge didn't know Putin. You know, he's calling him up, and you know, after the chemical attack on Tuesday, which is absolutely sickening to me, and just, you know, I told Howard, I said, this makes me saddened, sickened, and ashamed to be an American. You know, we never learn anything. You know, this is the old. We'll go down the same path, and like you said, Randy, all these people will be like, "Oh, I didn't vote for him. I didn't support the war." You know?
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
You know,
yeah.
They know where the bodies are. You know, but the bodies are all gone. You know,
yeah.
You're dead to me now, Senate. You're nothing anymore. You're not a brother. You're not a. You know.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. I get it. I see it. I know it. And all we got to do now is wait. Listen, I was right about George W. going to war if you elected him. I was right about in 2007. I said the economy is going to tank. It's going to tank. It tanked almost a year later, but it tanked. People call me. I go, you don't know what a recession is, right? It's 2 quarters of negative growth. I'm right about Trump, and I'm right about Putin, and I'm right about this. And the only way is to go check out what I said before it happens, and then see that it happens. And then go check out your sources and watch them be wrong all the time. Buy a stinking podcast. Go to RandyRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.